Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I find it quite difficult to say M. Night Shyamalan.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Unbreakable, which came out in the year 2000 from director, producer, writer M. Night Shyamalan. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis for Unbreakable?
Well, the story follows David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, and Elijah Price, played by Samuel Jackson. Elijah Price has been born with a terrible disease that turns all of his bones to glass, and he has spent most of his life looking for somebody who has the complete opposite to what he has. That brings him to David Dunn, who has just been involved in a high-speed train accident which has killed everybody on board, but he's miraculously walked away from.
And to answer your question, there are two reasons why I'm looking at you like this. One, because it seems in a few minutes that you will officially be the only survivor of this train wreck. And two, because you didn't break one bone. You don't have a scratch on you.
You know, M. Night Shyamalan has been one of those directors that, he had that one breakout movie at the beginning of his career, The Sixth Sense, that everyone lost their minds. They were just like, this is it. This is, this guy's just going to continue to make the greatest films with the best twist endings ever.
Yeah.
But, you really can't always keep replicating that. And so, Sixth Sense, as huge as it was, Unbreakable you had that to follow.
Yeah.
And, subsequently, I remember watching this film for the first time with a group of people, and when it was finished, they were all like, what should we watch next? Let's find something better to watch. And I was like, really? I need to take a minute. I can't just whack another film on right now. I just witnessed something special, and you've all just discarded it instantly. And, that train of thought would continue, in my opinion, from everyone else's opinions on his films, that they were all terrible. I think we had The Village, which came next.
Yeah. And Lady in the Water.
In the Water, and at that point, everyone was done with Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And then there was the Last Airbender, and then I was like, all right, I'm not. That was when I got to the point where I also agreed and stopped watching his films. I still enjoyed Signs to an extent.
Yeah, and he did. Was it Devil, the one in the elevator as well?
That was also not very good. It was just filled with plot holes. But then this director has turned things around and released Split earlier in 2017.
Yes, with James McAvoy, yeah.
And that film's ending ties back into this film, Unbreakable, and now he has announced that there will be an Unbreakable 2.
Yeah, part of his East Rail trilogy.
Yes.
That's what I read it up for. And like what you said, when Sixth Sense came out, it was spoiled for me. Everyone was just like, this is what happens. We're going to tell you, Iain, because you love spoiling films.
Well, you would have Wikipedia if it
I
had been around.
I would have Wikipedia'd it. And rightly so, because you get told the ending for Sixth Sense, that's it, spoils the film for you.
Well,
so
the idea is that knowing the ending...
Don't spoil it for people who haven't seen Sixth Sense.
I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just saying that knowing the ending actually enhances your second viewing of The Sixth Sense.
See, now I disagree, because I went and saw Unbreakable in the cinema to avoid spoilers from other people. So I went and saw it first, and like what you said, when I came out, nobody was really talking about it. They weren't impressed.
No.
And I'm like, that film was fucking awesome, compared to some of the superhero movies that we had coming out at that time.
Well, at that time, we'd only had the Batman films.
Yeah, and X-Men.
And the Superman films, and the very first X-Men film, I think, was out just after Unbreakable.
Yeah, and Unbreakable brought superhero stuff into realistic real life.
Oh, it very much tried to do that, yeah.
And I would see that once again later on in Super or Kick-Ass, set in the real world, not this magical Marvel DC universe that we have over here. And like we said, with this director, I wanted to see more. I did enjoy Sixth Sense, and I did enjoy Unbreakable, so I went and saw The Village, which that kind of got spoiled for me as well.
Yeah.
You know, Lady in the Water I was very impressed with.
I actually enjoyed that one. I know it's not a good film, but it was one that I just went, yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it though.
Yeah, and same with Signs. I've only really seen Signs once and didn't enjoy it that much because I was, by that point, M. Night Shyamalan, he was known for having these twist endings, but only a few of his movies actually do.
Yeah.
Some of them are actually quite straightforward. Unbreakable, I would say, is very straightforward. You have some great camera work in this film. You know, the whole title card at the beginning about the comics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that opening title card was a bit much.
Really?
Like, I mean, it was a whole page of information that didn't need to be there. Not any of that needed to be there. It didn't need to tell you anything about comic books at the beginning.
Well, I kind of had to establish
How popular they are?
how popular comic books can be, and you know, and how rare they can be, so that follows on into Mr. Glass's
It kind of feels
story.
like that is Mr. Glass telling you this at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it's like within his character just to keep talking about comic books.
Yeah, and then we see the birth sequence of Elijah Price.
Yeah.
Very, very well done. You know, the emotion brought across from you from the mother and everybody else. You know, she's just given birth in this department store. Everything's a bit shocking.
I just want to bring up as the Eamonn Walker, who
Yeah.
was the Doctor. Of course, I recognised him from the Oz TV series. And so this one, he's only in this appearance as the Doctor. He's the one who's like, did you drop this baby on its head?
It appears that your baby has sustained some fractures while inside your uterus. His arms and his legs are broken.
And you're like, shit.
Well, it's a real medical condition that people actually suffer from. And there are varying degrees of, you know, the brittle bone kind of syndrome that he's suffering from. And it's a terrifying thought
Yes.
to feel like your bones are literally made of glass and that you could shatter really easily. It's a frightening condition.
But it was so brilliant. And I'll go into detail about it a little bit later on, about just how Samuel Jackson works that aspect into his character. Because, you know, after that, we cut to present day, and you see Bruce Willis, David Dunn, sitting on the train. I was very surprised at this time in the early 2000s of how Bruce Willis could just shave his head and be different characters.
It's kind of at this point after the 90s where he'd shaved his head for almost every role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's the same shaven head, but he's able to be different characters. I mean, he's got that same shaven head in Die Hard with Vengeance, Pulp Fiction. You know,
Both of those films have Samuel
Jackson in as well. I was going to bring that up too. You know, we'd already seen him already established again in Sixth Sense. You know, he's gone on to do Unbreakable, and the fact that he's able to just explode out of this typecast of I'm not just an action hero. You know, I can act. And this character, this David Dunn character, what blew me away when I saw it was how held back he is. How reserved.
Totally. I think this is one of Bruce Willis's best ever performances. Now, he doesn't have a huge amount of dialogue. A lot of the sequences, that he's not speaking, but he's emoting.
Yes.
Seriously, you can feel everything that's coming from him. It helps that the camera work and the music is also emulating his feelings. And so he's acting his ass off in this film, and I've got to applaud that. I also have to say for Samuel Jackson as well, when I was watching the film, I was like, oh, that's what it looks like when Samuel Jackson is acting. Instead of just tearing up the scenery and dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
And N-bombs.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, he's playing a character. I was like, wow, Samuel Jackson is acting.
Yeah, I did, and that's it. I mean, I'll just bring it up now. That's what blew me away when I saw this film, and it still blows me away now. Between these two major actors, you know, we've already seen them both work together in Die Hard with Vengeance. We saw them, they didn't work opposite each other, but they were both in Pulp Fiction, being these intelligent characters.
The badasses.
These badasses. And
badass motherfucker.
with Samuel Jackson, you know, when I love it when Samuel Jackson swears.
Yeah.
And kicks up a scene.
We all do.
And does all his stuff. But with this film, with Elijah Price, you know, how reserved he is in the back as well. He's controlled himself. Bruce Willis. This whole opening sequence with him on the train, I totally forgot, and yet I still think it's absolutely amazing. You know, you've got all the usual names and stuff appearing across the screen, telling you who's produced the film and who starred in it. At the whole time, you've got David chatting up this woman. We've already seen him remove his wedding ring, so he's married, but it seems like he's troubled because that's why he's removed his ring. He's talking to the woman. He makes her feel uncomfortable, even though he's being as polite and nice as he can. He's just trying to strike up conversation. You see in him looking at these kids, and he seems like he's in a bad spot.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And it's going to get worse, because then we start hearing that train coming.
I mean, you can hear the music kind of escalates, the sound of the train, the vibrations. You know, you can feel that something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a small ticking as well. Like a bomb was about to go off.
Right.
And of course it just fades out. And it's like, oh, you know, you kind of just know that it ended badly there.
Yeah.
And, you know, this next sequence is amazing where he sat there on the hospital bed.
Oh, yeah.
And the doctor's talking to him. And you can see this other body, you know, in the foreground. And you just see this red blood spot just getting bigger and bigger. And the doctor's like, you know, in a small amount of time, you're going to be the only survivor of this train crash.
Yeah.
And, you know, the sequence where he just stumbles out of the hospital and walks out, and you see all these other family members there waiting to hear news about other people that were on the train. You know, you just want to tear up. You know, you see these actual natural disasters or these other disasters that occur, and you're just like, it's so horrific.
Yeah.
You know, and when you see the boy running for his dad, you're just like, oh my God, it's... And, you know, you can still see the marital issues between David and Audrey as they kind of have that hug, like, don't really love you, kind of glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Kind of moment. And
Yeah.
it's just all these things just keep building. And just keep building up these characters.
Robin Wright playing Audrey Dunn. Princess Buttercup.
Jenny.
Jenny from Forrest Gump. She recently played Wonder Woman's auntie.
She was in the new Blade Runner 2049.
She is an amazing actress as well.
Yes, she is.
You know, and I say that mainly on the back of watching her in Unbreakable, because in the sequences that she has opposite David, they really made me believe that they were having trouble in their marriage, that they couldn't really put their finger on. You know, he hasn't cheated, she hasn't cheated. It would just come about that David had a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
David had a nightmare about their marriage, and you know, thought that was the end, and he's feeling sadness at the moment because he's not accomplishing what he wants to in life, and she wants to support him doing that, because it turns out that he suffered an accident when he was in school, when he was a high school football player, and he was really good, but when he had this car accident with Audrey, he gave it all up, and she's felt that was kind of her fault. You know, because straight after they would be married, and straight after that they would have their son. You know, and life. I feel with this film, life has been good up to this. Life has been good up to maybe a couple of months before the train crash. You know, and then it started to go a bit downhill. Then the train crashes come along, and they're really happy David is alive. But the family are just as shocked as well that out of this whole incident, he's walked away scot-free.
Unscathed.
Yeah. So when he starts questioning Audrey about when he's been ill, and she starts thinking about it, you know, I believe the emotion coming from Robin Wright, where she's like, you've never been ill, no.
When's the last time I was sick? Do you remember?
I don't know. It's been a while.
So the reason why he's questioning her is because after the funeral service, there was a small message left for him on the windscreen of his car from a limited edition, which asks him, "Have you ever been ill?" And coincidentally, he goes into work the next day and he asks the secretary to pass on a message. Have I ever been ill?
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny that later on in the film, and he's back at work, and the boss is just like, 0.
Yeah.
You've never taken a sick day. It's a great idea, you know. You get the point. You want a raise. You're getting one. I was like, I might actually try that.
Yeah.
How many days have I taken it? None?
Or try and not be ill for 5 years.
Or just not take any sick days.
Yeah.
And so, after getting this message, David takes his son to go to Limited Edition to figure out why this message. And this is the first meeting between Elijah and David. And, this is where Elijah explains the history of comic books as something that's been passed down since the beginning of stories.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Hieroglyphics.
I'm like,
and the Egyptians.
That comic books didn't come from the hieroglyphs or the original stories of man.
No, but
Elijah.
I think he means more of the image drawing. Making sure pictures are put on something so that people can see them.
But were those superheroes that they were drawing? Maybe. I guess they might have been regarded to if they were going to draw them.
Well, I mean, the Egyptians drew gods.
Yeah.
So and the Greeks did it. Cavemen did it.
So original comic books, right there.
Right there. Cave paintings and Jesus Christ, the original comic books, right there.
And so Elijah explains that he is on one end of the spectrum, that the spectrum of broken body, no strength, just frail and prone to illness and weakness. And so he was convinced that there would be somebody on the other end of that spectrum, someone like David, who is impervious to harm, it would seem, that can walk away unscathed from, these massive disasters. And David's, the boy's just like, really? Wow, this is exciting. And David's like, go get yourself a drink. And as soon as he's out, it's just like, no, I don't believe anything you're saying, and we'll be leaving now. Thank you for your crazy. And I'm just like, meh. Like, you as an audience member, you're like, wow, this is amazing. But at the same time, you're trying to look at the reality of it, and you're like, well, that does seem pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I've always liked about this film, because you're looking at it from a realistic term. And you're thinking, nah, there's absolutely no way. I can kind of gather that, Samuel Jackson's got this brittle bone disease, but he's got a great mind on him. He may seem crazy, but he's got a point. David Dunn just walked away from a train wreck with not a single scratch on him. That's more impossible than the fact that there are superheroes in this world. That's what I mean. I sit there going, in realistic terms, this could actually work. But the film never gives us a proper answer on that. On the fact if David is invincible or not. He survives that train wreck, yeah. But there's not one point that there's a kitchen sequence with his son, played by Spencer Treat Clark, who's brilliant in this film as well. And he gets a gun and points it at David.
Yeah.
Now this would have completely proven anybody if he pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And it's such an amazing sequence.
Oh, yeah.
That you kind of just sit there going, I want him to shoot.
Yeah, in a way
a way, I want to see what happens. Is he gonna bleed? Is he gonna be able to pull a bullet out? Is he just gonna be standing? You don't see any of that.
I got a bit of trivia for you.
Yeah.
Now, Christopher Reeve, that's my Superman.
Right. Yeah.
That's the guy who made me believe I could actually fly as a child.
Oh,
wrap a towel around your neck and you could fly. People believed he was Superman.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Tom Welling.
Fuck. So, a small child got hold of a firearm and pulled it out on Christopher Reeve and said, I'm going to shoot you because you're Superman. The bullet, you'll take no damage. And Christopher Reeve was just like, oh shit, how do I handle this? And he was just like, he convinced the child. I mean, this is an urban legend. I don't know if this actually happened, but the story goes that Christopher Reeve told him that you shouldn't shoot me because I'm Superman and the bullet will ricochet off me and hit somebody else.
Nice.
So you shouldn't do it. And he managed to get the child to not shoot him.
Yeah.
And so in this film, David literally has to he convinces his son that he's going to pack his bags and leave the family.
Yes.
If you don't put the gun down. And that's like, for the child, that's got to hurt. and so it convinces him to put the gun down.
Yeah.
But the whole family at that point is just so fractured. Like, they're all just broken people at this point. They're all broken.
It's an amazing sequence.
Yeah.
Because you've got Audrey stood there. She's in absolute shock. She doesn't know what to do. Her son's got this gun. Bruce Willis has no clue, and the way like I said, he just flips it around and says, "Yep, if you shoot me, it's going to bounce off me, and I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to go, and you'll never see me again." And like I just wanted to well up, like, please just put the gun down.
Joseph, you are about to be in big trouble. Now, I am your father, and I am telling you to put that goddamn gun down right now. 1, 2.
You know, like the son played an amazing part, because in every sequence that we see father and son together, the son loves his father so much he just doesn't want to let him go. You know, there's that brilliant sequence where Bruce Willis sat in bed holding the paper, and he's reading it, and then as he pulls the paper away, you see the son has literally latched onto him round his waist, and he's just finding it difficult to kind of pull him off.
But this does lead into one of the best sequences in the film, where David starts training. He's just lifting some weights, and his son's watching him, and he's like, "How much weight was that?" He's like, "All right, maybe you should take some off."
Yeah.
You see him lift some more weights. He's like, "How much was that? How much did you take off?" And the boy's like, "Actually, I just put on extra weight." "How much can you lift?" "I don't know. Let's add some more. Let's put some paint cans on the side." It's like, well, there's no more weights left in the house, and you've bench pressed the lot.
Yeah.
Like, damn, he's really strong. But then the boy gets into trouble at school, starts getting into fights, starts playing football with the other kids and telling them all that his dad's, a superhero and a great football player. And he's sad that his dad won't come and play football against this other guy who was introduced by the girl on the train earlier. I'm like, it's a small world, isn't it,
Yes.
after all? And so the father gets called in, David gets called into the school to see the teacher, to talk about the fighting that's been going on. And that's when you realise that David's been a shit dad. He just says, "Oh, Audrey handles all my son stuff. I don't do any of that." And that's when you go, "God damn, you're a terrible father." But then we hear more backstory. And this is a bit strange.
Right.
You have to ask yourself, if you're a person who's never been ill in your life, you'd be gloating about it, wouldn't you? I know someone who's very rarely ill. And she always goes, "Yeah, I'd never get ill." And I'm like, it's the proof is right there. If you've never been ill, you'd know about it. I'm pretty sure you'd also know if you had a near drowning accident.
Yeah, this is one of the plot holes I find as
It's like,
well.
how
this
do you
film.
forget that?
It's like he literally only remembered. He only started to think of this stuff after the train accident. I drowned as a kid, but I'll completely forget all about that.
Well, Elijah would say that every superhero has a weakness. And it would turn out that his weakness is water.
Yeah.
Again, like the aliens from Signs.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that while he was submerged underwater, maybe he suffered some form of amnesia or...
Yeah, because I get the fact that David's not as smart as Elijah.
No.
That's what I get. David is more brawn, and he's
more heart as well.
Yeah, but he's happy to just walk through his day-to-day life on like autopilot.
Yeah.
He just goes from point A to point B.
Well, I don't think he's happy with that. I think it's just he's just comfortable in that now.
Yes, because it's just maybe that's just his day-to-day mundane life. Yeah, and the funny thing is as well is that his weakness is obviously water, so he avoids all that kind of stuff, and he avoids putting himself into any positions with his son, with the whole football aspect. And it brings me to Elijah's mum. I was watching this for the review, and I realised that this whole film is her fault.
Well, to force him to go outside.
To force her son to go outside to read his first comic book, to overcome this fear, obviously led him down the path of wanting to find the opposite of him, which would happen to be David. And so Elijah he's been studying all these disasters. He's been searching for this sole survivor so that he could find it. Elijah is fully convinced that David is this superhero, and so goes to speak to David at his job And we start to get to grips then with David having psychic ability.
Yeah, it's his major superpower other than his, invincibility.
Yeah, I'd say his invincibility is his major one. The psychic power is kind of like an after effect. But he's able to touch people and get images of them doing bad things. Elijah sees David do this at the at David's job and chases down the guy that David was going to stop. Supposedly this guy has a gun on him, black grip in his belt. And it's this sequence of Elijah falling down the stairs.
Well, the whole sequence is a bit strange anyway, because, he sees him out in the car park.
Yeah.
And then, which is like, this was ages after that guy had already left. And then when Elijah's chasing him, he's back inside the stadium. And it's like, what?
No, he went down into the subway.
Right.
He follows him out from the car park across the road, and the guy goes down the stairs into the subway, in which Elijah follows down but slips, and
when that cane shatters, that tells you everything.
Yeah.
And then when when Elijah screams out in pain, you're just like, the agony. But the pain is all evaporated when he glimpses the gun attached to his waist-side.
Yeah.
And it's like, the pain's gone. Like, all 50-odd broken bones, worth it.
Yeah.
Because he's seen what he wanted to see.
He now knows that David is that one. And like I said, he goes to see Audrey because he's going through the recuperation process of getting his bones fixed.
Again, it's quite a contrivance that it would be David's wife.
No, well, yeah, but I think Elijah purposely set that up. I think Elijah, in searching for David, would come across that David's wife would be working at this hospital, and would purposely get to her because he wants to question her. He wants to find out about the illness. He wants to find out about the car wreck. He's not fully convinced that David is not invincible, like David likes to point out. And so we start to follow David as well, coming to terms with the fact that he may be a superhero. And he has that awesome sequence where Elijah convinces him to go to the train station.
He just tells him to go where people are.
Yeah. And David just puts his hands out. Now the ending for me, this sequence of the film I feel is slightly unbelievable. With everything I know, I'm sitting through all the way through an M. Night Shyamalan movie. This sequence of him coming across the cleaner who has just broken into a family's home, killed the dad, and taken the family hostage.
Well, he builds up to to that one because at first he's kind of looking for, a criminal that he can tackle, and he sees the woman in the red, kind of jewel thief essentially.
Yeah.
And then he sees this child who looks like he's being abused by his mother.
Yeah.
And that would, fans have theorized that now maybe that is the child that is James McAvoy in Split.
Oh.
And because we know these universes are interconnected, that's a very likely response.
That could work.
But there's also someone else who raped a woman who was unconscious.
Yeah,
drunken
like a
party
teenager,
kind of thing.
like a fat boy.
But he's decided to let all them go until he finds, as you've mentioned, this guy in the orange jumpsuit who's, home invader essentially.
I'd like to think that. I mean, I haven't seen Split yet. But I like to think that this killer was kind of the basis of what the Split character would become in Split. Because, like I said, he just seems a bit OTT that this guy would come to this house randomly, kill this dad, leave him on the stairs, take tie the family up to what seems to be a couple of days, go off to work in a train station, and then come back and do what he wants with them. Over the course of a couple of days, it seems a bit much that David would also coincidentally come across this guy, follow him back to this house, and rescue the children. Now, he attempts to rescue the mum but the killer pushes him out the window, and you have that amazing tense sequence of him sat on the pool cover, and you're just watching it sink in. And like we said, we already know his weakness is water, so this next bit we're like, well, we're fucked. Luckily he's rescued the children, and they pull him back to the surface, and he goes back up and he chokes the killer out.
This is one of the greatest moments in the film.
Yeah.
Now, I struggled initially with the idea that the kids managed to see what happened to David and also decided to rescue him.
Yeah.
And the killer didn't stop him, didn't see any of this, just kind of disappeared
Yeah,
until
that's
David
what I
comes
mean. It
back for
seems
the
a bit
second attack.
far-fetched, yeah.
It does seem a little bit off kilter, but when he's actually choking the killer out,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's not a straight up fight. You know, they're grappling and they're wrestling and they're throwing themselves around, and we've seen David bench press almost everything.
Yeah.
And yet he's still struggling with this killer. I'm just like, so how strong is he? I guess he's strong, but I guess he's still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he should have taken this guy down straight away.
Yeah, well, he should have, but like I said, for me, it's the fact that he's more brawn than brains.
Well, he doesn't want to kill him, maybe. You know, just wants him punished, wants him arrested.
Yeah,
but...
wants him arrested, but the killer just starts throwing him into walls. But we know David's invincible, so he's not even feeling it.
No.
You know, a couple of those throws, and he'd have been down. But he manages to choke out the killer, and I just feel harsh when he undoes the windings on the mum's hands, and her body just slumps. You kind of believe that she's fully dead.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, she may be just sleeping.
No, she did.
Yeah.
You'll see it in the newspaper in the next day in the news broadcast, which would say that the mother and father are dead. The killer also was dead, had died from his suffocation.
Yeah.
And the two children are still alive. And you know, I think this is the first time you see David smile
Yes.
when he slides the newspaper over to his son, and he's like, "Keep this secret. You were right. I am a superhero.
Yeah.
Don't let Mum find out."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh, this is so good."
Yes, I
so
love his
good.
get up as well. That costume of just
Yeah.
the Mac.
And it's, you know, and even in David's name, the David Dunn, it's a superhero name. You know, like Clark Kent,
Yeah.
like Lois Lane, you know, all those double names. It's just like
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker, yeah.
Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
But as we said with M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movies, the twist ending is always there, and David would return to Elijah on his exhibition night, and would be talking to Elijah's evil mother, and she's the evil mastermind behind this whole film, and he would go into the back room with Elijah to talk about obviously this event and him saving this family. And once he shakes Elijah's hand, he would find out that Elijah had orchestrated the 3 disasters that we've been hearing about throughout the movie. He had set a fire in a building which had killed a bunch of people. He'd caused a plane crash, and he'd also set the bomb aboard the train to make the train crash, which David had obviously been on board. And the shock on David's face.
Such a revelation. I mean, it's not a great twist ending.
No,
but it's a surprise ending that, you know, unless you're paying attention to the notes, or if you're watching it the second time, you can see the little clues which show you how unhinged
Yeah.
Elijah is. You know, he had the nickname Mr. Glass.
Yeah.
As a villain nickname, you know?
This is villain
it's
nickname,
like
yeah.
the clues are all in there, and you know, his behaviour throughout the film is, you know, it's you could almost place him as the villain, but the thing is, Elijah is also a great character because he doesn't realise he's the villain. He was looking for something to complete him, to make himself feel whole,
Yes.
to feel connected,
Yeah.
because he's felt so ostracised from everything because of his condition.
Yeah.
And as a consequence has created the superhero.
Yes.
That would defeat him, but not in this film.
Yeah.
Because, you know, David after this revelation, he just leaves.
Well, yeah, but he gets arrested, doesn't he?
He does, yes, and sent to a psychiatric. But we just know that, you know, how often has Batman sent people to a psychiatric institute?
Yeah.
Only for them to find other villains and escape together and go on massacres.
Yeah.
You know, it's But it is such a great ending.
I still blame his mum.
Well.
It's Elijah's mum's fault. The whole thing, it's her fault.
Now, I also think it's interesting that M. Night Shyamalan obviously wrote the whole film, but he then decided to destroy 2/3 of the script.
Wow. What?
And he decided that to end the film after the first third.
Oh.
And so all the rest, he just went, none of that is interesting. But this, up to this revelation, is everything.
Yeah.
So he took that first third of the script and then just turned that into the film. You know, subsequently, we are going to get the sequel now. But I just thought that was just a great maneuver on his part to craft the film that way.
Yeah, because that's what I really like about this film, that it's all so self-contained. You know, I know we're getting sequels and it does lead into Split and things like that. And I'm sure, you know, the director could link all of his films into one multi-universe in some kind of way. He hasn't, but he could have. With this movie, like I said, when I came out of the cinema, I was just like, I enjoyed that. You know,
it's such a fresh take on superheroes before the avalanche of superhero movies that has come along.
It's just one of those films where it's not over the top. It is slightly unbelievable, but that's okay. You know, it's okay. And we've got these two stellar performances leading the fucking ship. That we don't have to worry, because they're doing such a great job with the performances. I do get a bit thrown off with those title cards coming up at the end, where it just kind of freezes, you know, on Bruce Willis's face, and then it freezes on Elijah's, and I'm like, okay, I could have just had a black title card like at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I'm just being picky.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like it abruptly ends, but it's I do like it.
And you must think you're in a toy store because you're here shopping for an infant named Jeb. And one of us has made a gross error and wasted the other person's valuable time. This is an art gallery, my friend. And this is a piece of art.
My favourite sequences, I really enjoy the whole film, and I could go into long withdrawn conversations about the camera work and how certain scenes were just amazing, you know, like, for example, when Elijah and David are stood at the university and they're talking in that little darkened corridor, and the camera just kind of zooms back, or where it slides across, you know, the opening sequence between the seats looking at David and the woman. Those are all brilliant.
Well, this film has so many tracking shots, and a lot of them are really slow.
Yeah.
There's more tracking shots in this film than so many of the others that I've seen. But it's done in a way to emulate reading a comic book. You know, so it's kind of panning across to the next panel.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
And it just works really well. The camera work, sometimes it's a little bit too over the top, where it would spin around and around and around, like when Elijah first gets his first comic book.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why is the camera spinning over and over and over? It didn't need to do that, but you know, it's making a point. You know, this is a massive point in Elijah's life.
Yeah.
But yeah, the camera work in this film, it is really, really good.
But my favourite scenes, though, I like the "I'm not selling you shit" moment with Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
He doesn't actually say that. It's just how I kind of felt what he would have said if it was a normal Samuel Jackson moment. This man's come into the art gallery to buy this comic strip, which is really expensive and quite rare, and he plans on giving it to a 4-year-old. And Elijah is just like, does this look like a toy store? You're buying this for a 4-year-old? Get the hell out of my store. Just get out of here. You're wasting my time. And I'm just like, yeah, we've established that this guy is serious about his work, serious about his craft. Don't piss him around. Him falling down the stairs. Ouch. Like Gary said, when you see that cane break, it just tells you everything you need to know. And I just love that fucking kitchen moment with the gun. Just the three of them on camera is so brilliantly filmed, brilliantly acted, brilliantly scripted. Yeah, it's an amazing sequence.
Yeah, I think you've listed off some of my favourite moments in the film. You know, just to harp on about the camera work, that there's not many edits in the film.
Yeah.
That like from the sequence when he gets out of the hospital and walks all the way through and out.
Yeah.
It's all one take. You know, the camera does lots of turns around as well. You know, there's sequences like when when David and his wife are sort of building the bridge back to having a relationship again, and they're sat in the restaurant, like, at the other end, and the camera just slowly moves all the way up towards them. And I'm like, but this is great because the actors are performing their entire scenes in a single take. They're not, I do a line, cut. You do a line, cut. You know, they get to perform it and live it and feel it and express those characters because the camera is just staying there. Yeah. You know, it's, you just have to appreciate that the actors really shine in this. And so the weightlifting scene, the kid with the gun aiming at him sequence, the first meeting between David and Elijah, just great. And of course the triumphant moment when he does realize that he has superheroes and he acknowledges it and accepts it and goes out to fight crime. You know, it's just like, yes, like, we want you to do this.
Shut up, crime. I just had to put that in there.
So many favorite sequences. I have to recommend the film. Just one last bit of trivia. I just think it's funny that Samuel Jackson would be in a film about comic books when, you know, he's surrounded by comics of Thor, Daredevil, Avengers. Oh wait, isn't he Nick Fury?
Yeah.
In disguise?
Weird. Do you think Bruce Willis is going to turn up as like an invincible character at some point?
Could do.
That'd be fucked up.
So yeah, I have to recommend Unbreakable. I also have to recommend Split, and I'm looking forward to Glass. You know, the next film in this series. Yeah. I hope he keeps. I don't know how it's going to tonally keep within the Unbreakable kind of boundaries. He needs to keep it grounded in reality, and not go into Avengers or Justice League territory. It needs to remain as believable as it can be, because even the Dark Knight series, you know, Nolan tried to keep the Batman in a real world, but it was still in Gotham.
Yeah, you know? Got a little bit too far-fetched towards the end.
Exactly, yeah. So even though, you know, David has the psychic abilities, or where he can see people's crimes that they've committed, either past or future, you know, that's, and the fact that he is impervious to harm, you know, but we still believe it. Yeah. Camera work, music, editing, the production in the film. It's a modest budget, but it's done so well, and it's a massively underrated film. I mean, Tarantino went on and said that this is one of his favorite films. He thinks it's a masterpiece, and I kind of believe that. We both did when we first saw it. It's just like, why is no one talking about this film? Why did it just flop and die? But it still holds quite high scores on a lot of, you know, ranking websites, and rightly so. Yeah, rightly so.
I definitely recommend Unbreakable. If you've seen it, go back and watch it again. It's still really, really enjoyable. It's one of my issues I said when I was watching Unbreakable is with M. Night Shyamalan's films, once you've seen them, you know them, and there's not really much of a point to go back and watch them because you feel like the twist ending, you already know it. The reason to go back and watch these films is just because they're really good. And they're done.
They're good drama.
They're good drama. They're done well. He's not taking the piss. You know, I may not be a big fan of Signs, but that doesn't mean it's a shit film. It's not bad. I may not praise The Lady in the Water, but that doesn't mean that it's not fucking bad. I still haven't seen Split yet. But I was there as soon as it came out on Wikipedia and wikied that shit like a motherfucker. And I still haven't told anybody about the ending. But I want to see James McAvoy's performance. The fact that one actor can portray 23 separate identities is brilliant. Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, okay. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but then not everything is. I could probably sit down and watch it, and it's probably better than Dragon Ball Evolution. But Unbreakable, if you haven't seen it, go out and check it out. If you have, watch it again. It's really good.
These are mediocre times, Mrs. Dunn. People are starting to lose hope. It's hard for many to believe there are extraordinary things inside themselves as well as others. I hope you can keep an open mind.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.